Mission methods are now understood to be local and diverse. We don't share a common mission method, but we do need to recognise and appreciate the different ways in which we go about mission. And sometimes we need to criticise each other as well and hold each other to account. Some of the issues that will be dealt with in 2010, some of the burning issues perhaps, are the questions of how we go about witnessing to Christ in the context of many religions. There are also questions of the relationship between mission and power. Are missionary movements always those that are supported by rich churches and send rich Christians to poorer areas? Or are there other ways of doing mission, and I think there are, where the impact of Christianity is much more from below rather than from above, which was, of course, in the imperial worldview, the mission from above was very much the framework in which they were talking. Important questions about the environment in which we live, not only our concern for humanity, but the recognition that humanity lives in a limited and small planet, and whether we are taking our Christian responsibilities in mission to that planet seriously. The influence of migration, Christian populations and other populations moving around the world, how does that change the way in which we understand our mission? If I were to summarise some of the shifts in thinking, therefore, from 1910 to 2010, I think I could do that in 5 different ways. The first way is a theological shift. In 1910, most of the discussion about mission was in terms of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of Christ, and how that could be expanded, largely in a sense of territory, how Christian territory could be expanded. In 2010, if we look at the literature and the website and so on around 2010, the language used is much more about the Spirit of Christ, the Spirit of God at work in the world, not confined to any particular place, but moving and influencing people in different ways. Secondly, there's been a shift from mission societies as the agents of mission to churches as the primary agents of mission. Christians doing mission together as churches in their locality as well as at a distance. Thirdly, the model of church that's being used is not a centralised one where the centres of the churches were in Europe and they controlled what went on in the rest of the world, but a polycentric one where we have churches and Christian communities in all different parts of the world, and the way they interact is much more complex, multi-directional, and crisscrosses the globe in a very broad network of different movements. There's a change in philosophy as well, a philosophical change from universalism back in 1910 to a philosophy of plurality in 2010. In 1910 there was the sense that they wanted the whole world to conform to a particular model or a particular way of being Christian or being church. In 2010 we recognise that the world is full of different people with different languages, cultures and ways of being. And so churches also are diverse, plural, and express their mission in different ways. And the final shift that I should mention is a change in the understanding of evangelism, from seeing evangelism as Christianization, Christianizing people and making them in the model of good European Christians, to an understanding of evangelism as witnessing, witnessing to Christ wherever we are, however we are, in the way that we understand Jesus Christ lived in the world. And that means that there's a lot of variety in the way that we do mission, and we need to, if we are going to cooperate in mission, we need to understand one another and talk with one another before we can agree on how we're going to proceed. Next year, in 2010, we look forward to a relatively small conference in Edinburgh, which will be symbolic of events that are happening all over the world. But what matters is not what goes on in Edinburgh this time, but what is happening in local churches and in local Christian communities around the world, and the way they interact with one another and the way we learn to understand one another's missions and to cooperate in mission.